Alright, so in this lesson, we are looking at how to multiply polynomials. So the first rule we had was the product rule. We learned that a long time ago in our very first or second lesson or so. But anyway, we remember what to do. We are going to multiply the numbers in front and we're going to add up the exponents. So if I look at this first one, I would say 6 times that negative 2 would give me a negative 12. And then if I add up the exponents, I get 3 plus 5 or negative 12x to the 8th. Same thing over here. I multiply negative 2 times negative 4 would give me positive 8. Alright, if you add up your x's, you've got 2 plus, remember that's an understood 1 on that one, so you'd have x to the 3rd. And then if you added up your y's, you would get y to the 5th. Okay. Now for this next one, number 3, remember when you've got something right outside parentheses, you're going to distribute. So when I multiply those two, I'm going to say the 2 times 4 gives me the 8. And if you add up the x's, you get x to the 4th. Then if I do it here, 2 times negative 6 is negative 12. And if you add up the x's there, you get x to the 3rd because you've got the 1 plus the 2. And then if I do it here, I'm just doing 2x times 3. Well, that's just 6x. Now don't get that far and get tempted to try to put those together. Remember, they're not like terms. Alright, same thing here. We'll distribute. Alright, so 3 times 5 gives me 15. I've got 4 x's now and 3 y's when I add them up. Alright, 3 times negative 2 gives me a negative 6. I've got 3 x's and 2 y's. And then 3 times 3 gives me a positive 9. I didn't have any x's to add with the 2 that I had, but now if I put my y's together, I get y squared. None of those are like terms, so we'll get to stop there. Alright. Multiplying a binomial and a trinomial. So 2 terms by 3 terms. 2 by 3. What you're going to have to do is split it up. Alright, what you're going to do is take your binomial and you're going to chop it in half after the x. You're going to split it in half. You're going to take the x and distribute it. And then you're going to take the positive 1 and distribute it through the trinomial. So what you have to do is make 2 problems. You take your binomial, chop it in half, and then you make 2 problems. So now if we distribute the x, we get x to the 3rd plus 2x squared plus 3x. And then if I distribute the 1, I get 1x squared plus 2x plus 3. Now these will have like terms. You will be able to put the middle together. Alright, so x cubes, I don't have any more, so I'm going to put them in my answer. Alright, x squares, I've got 2 of them plus 1 of them, so that gives me 3x squared. Alright, x's, I've got 3x plus 2x, and that's going to give me 5x. And then I have my plus 3. Alright, so let's do this one the same way. So remember, got a 2 by 3, what you're going to do is chop it in half after the x. I'm going to take the x and distribute it through the trinomial. And I'm going to take the negative 2. Be careful with that negative sign because we're going to have to watch when we distribute it. Alright, so if I distribute my x, I get x to the 3rd minus 4x squared plus 3x. And if I distribute my negative 2, then I get a negative 2x squared, a positive 8x, and a negative 6. Alright, so I start with my first one, x cubes. I don't have any more. Alright, x squares, let's look. Negative 4 and a negative 2. Well, that would give me a negative 6x squared. Alright, x's, I have a plus 3 and a plus 8. That would give me 11x. And then I have that, negative 6. Okay, so chop them up, make 2 problems. Alright, let's see what's next. Alright, FOIL. Okay, so you have it in your notes, but the F stands for the first, the O stands for the outside, the I stands for the inside, and the L stands for the last. So let me write this a little bit bigger. Alright, so here's our first one. So F we only do this for 2 by 2s. Okay, so the F stands for the first one in this parenthesis times the first one in that parenthesis. So x times x is x squared. Okay. The O stands for 2 on the outside, so that would be this one here times this one here. So x times an 8 would give me 8x. All right, the I stands for the very 2 on the inside. So you got this 2 and you got this x. Those would be your inside. And I get a 2x. And then the L stands for the last, which means the last one in this parenthesis times the last one in that parenthesis. So the 2 times the 8 gives me 16. I was always kind of taught to make a face out of this where you can see, you know, the eyes, the nose, the mouth smiling at you, and the ears, and that's how I was always taught to put it together. Now, check and see if you have any like terms. Most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time the middle will go together, and definitely in the ones that we do. So we would get 10x plus 16. All right, so let's do this one the same way. Again, I'm going to write it bigger for this pen. All right, so here we go. First time first. X times 2x, and that would be 2x squared. All right, let's do the outside. X times 5y. So we have 5. We want to keep them in alphabetical order, so always write xy, don't write yx. Inside would be a negative 3y times a positive 2x, so I would get a negative 6, and again I'm going to write it xy, keep it in alphabetical order. And then the last would be the last one here, negative 3y times the last one there, 5y, so I get a negative 15y squared. Same case here, the middle two are like terms, so they can go together. So I get a negative 1 xy minus a 15y squared. Right, here's 2 more to practice. 4x minus 5 times 7x minus 3. All right, so here we go. First time first. 4x times 7x would be 28x squared. All right, outside. 4x times negative 3, negative 12x. Inside would be a negative 5 times 7x, or a negative 35x. And last two, be careful with your signs. I've got a negative 5 times a negative 3, or a negative 15. Positive 15. I just said be careful with your signs, and look at me. All right, so middle two can go together. So a negative 12 and a negative 35. Here we go. It's going to give me a negative 47x plus 15. All right, and then our last FOIL, well, no, there's some more coming up. Here we go. First time first. 4x times x would be 4x squared. Outside, outside. 4x times y would just be 4xy. Right. Inside, negative 3y times x would be negative 3xy. And then last times last, negative 3y times y would be a negative 3y squared. And if I were to put those together, 4xy minus 3xy would give me 1xy. And I'm finished. Always double check that you can put the middle together. All right, so I'll put these next two up here, and I said, all right, what about these two? All right, so if I looked at that one, x minus 3 times x plus 3. If we FOILed it out, okay, well, first of all, what do you notice about the parentheses, okay? When you see that they're the exact same parenthesis, but with opposite signs, let me show you what will always happen. First time first would give me x squared. Outside outside would give me 3x. And inside inside would give me negative 3x. And last times last would give me a negative 9. So when I go to put the middle together, what happens to a positive 3x and a negative 3x? They cancel. So I'm just left with the first and the last, okay? Now, that's going to always happen if you have the exact same parenthesis with opposite signs, okay? So the only two letters out of FOIL that you need are your first and last. So you can FOIL it all the way out and cancel the middle. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you notice, like we get to this next one, exact same parenthesis, but opposite signs, if you want to save yourself a little bit of time, the only letters you need are first and last. So first time first would give me 4x squared, and last times last would give me a negative 64, because I know the middle will cancel. Okay, but again, if you want to FOIL it all out and cancel it, that's fine, or you could do it this way. And last two problems, or 4 problems, or squaring out the binomials. Now make sure you read through those notes that I gave you that have the rules on how to do it, okay? You have two options. When you see that parentheses squared, you can write it twice and FOIL it. Now the middle's not going to cancel here because I don't have opposite signs. I would FOIL it out and get x squared plus 5x plus 5x plus 25. And so you can see the middle doesn't cancel, it doubles, which would give me 10x plus 25. If you want to save yourself a little bit of time, okay, the rules are square the first one. So like if I did this one, square x times x is x squared. All right, and then it's multiply and double. Multiply the inside together. What is x times negative 6? So that'd be a negative 6x. Double it means times 2, so I get a negative 12x. And then square the last one. Well, negative 6 times negative 6 is 36. And that's just a little bit faster way to work it that you'll need from college algebra. So let's try it again. Square the first, multiply, double, square the last. So square 2x. 2x times 2x is 4x squared. All right, multiply the middle together. What is 2x times negative 5y? It's negative 10xy. Double it means times 2. So that's negative 20xy. And then square negative 5y. Well, in your mind, what is negative 5y times negative 5y? Well, that's 25y squared. All right. Last one. All right, square 3x. 3x times 3x is 9x squared. Multiply them together and you get 12xy. Double it would be 24xy. And then square 4y. 4y times 4y is 16y squared. All right, go try your homework.